Money and spirituality are two concepts that seem to be in opposition to each other. Money is often associated with materialism, greed, and selfishness, while spirituality is associated with altruism, compassion, and selflessness. However, the relationship between money and spirituality is more complex than this simplistic dichotomy suggests. In fact, there are many stories and teachings from various spiritual traditions that explore the relationship between money and the human spirit. One of the most famous stories about money and spirituality is the parable of the rich young ruler from the Bible. In this story, a young man asks Jesus what he must do to inherit eternal life. Jesus tells him to keep the commandments, but the young man replies that he has already done so from his youth. Jesus then tells him that he lacks one thing: he must sell all his possessions and give the money to the poor, and then he will have treasure in heaven. The young man is sad and goes away because he has great wealth. This story illustrates the tension between material possessions and spiritual fulfillment. The young man is unwilling to give up his wealth, even though he desires eternal life. The story suggests that true spiritual fulfillment requires a willingness to let go of material possessions and focus on serving others. Another story from the Buddhist tradition tells of a wealthy merchant who asks the Buddha how to find true happiness. The Buddha tells him to let go of his attachment to his wealth and possessions. The merchant is hesitant, so the Buddha asks him if he would be willing to give up one of his eyes for a kingdom. The merchant says no. The Buddha then asks him if he would be willing to give up both eyes for a kingdom. The merchant again says no. The Buddha then tells him that if he is unwilling to give up even one eye for a kingdom, how can he expect to find true happiness if he is attached to his wealth and possessions? This story highlights the importance of detachment in spiritual practice. The Buddha teaches that true happiness comes from letting go of our attachment to material possessions and desires. By doing so, we can achieve a state of inner peace and contentment. In the Hindu tradition, there is a story about a king who was troubled by the fact that he could not find true happiness. He sought the advice of a wise sage, who told him to find a man who was truly content and ask him how he achieved his happiness. The king searched far and wide and finally found a poor farmer who was always smiling and seemed to be at peace with his life. The king asked him how he found true happiness, and the farmer replied, "I have everything I need and nothing more. I am content with what I have." This story emphasizes the importance of simplicity and contentment in spiritual practice. The farmer is happy because he is satisfied with what he has, and does not feel the need to accumulate more. In contrast, the king is unhappy because he is always seeking more and is never satisfied. These stories and teachings illustrate the complex relationship between money and spirituality. On one hand, money can be a hindrance to spiritual growth if we become too attached to our material possessions and desires. On the other hand,